Hello and welcome to episode 21 of the Obsessive Viewer podcast. That's right, our podcast is old enough to drink now. This episode has to do with zombies. Movies, TV shows, our theories, all kinds of stuff. We had our friend Pat Kuhn come and join us. Matt and Mike have known him for a long time, and he is pretty much an expert on the zombie genre. So we really wanted to get him on for this episode, and he was great. It was a lot of fun. As always, if you want to find back episodes of the podcast or new content, go to obsessiveviewer.com. This month specifically, we're having a whole Shocktober month for Halloween. Journal entries, movie reviews, all kinds of stuff. So if you like Halloween, go check that out. If you want to get in touch with us, you can go to facebook.com/theobsessiveviewer. You can hit all three of us on Twitter, at ObsessiveViewer, at ObsessiveTiny, and at I am Mike White. And then our friend Pat is also on Twitter at Patty_Kuhn, Kuhn. And then lastly, you can shoot us an email at ovpodcast@gmail.com. All right, thanks, guys. I hope you enjoy the episode.
Welcome to a special zombie edition of the Obsessive Viewer podcast. This is Matt. I'm here today with Mike and Tiny, as always, and we're also joined by our friend from Evansville, Pat, who Mike and I know from I know from college, and Mike knows from...
7th grade.
7th grade. Wow.
He was one of my first friends in 7th grade. We both had hair back then.
Oh, nice. And then, of course, Tiny knows him from the memorable movie theater experience
Yes.
Contest, and from Mike's bachelor party. So, Pat, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys. Huge fan of the show. I actually listen to all the episodes. I download the Breaking Bad and Game of Thrones episodes. Don't listen to them because obviously I'm not caught up yet. But wanted to give you guys your clicks. And I have literally, since you started the website, I followed you, and of course I've been friends with you for a while, so I was going to support you regardless.
Right.
But I was pleasantly surprised at how legit everything is.
Thank you.
Nice,
You read
thank
that
you.
perfectly, by the way. Thanks.
And so when you guys first started doing podcasts, of course, I started listening to, and basically since the first episode, I've been dropping hints to Matt that I wanted to be on the podcast, and I have basically since the first episode done everything but like get on my hands and knees and beg to be on the podcast.
I was holding out for
I was
holding out for that. So
Yeah.
So I'm excited that I finally get to be on it.
Nice. We're glad to have you. Yeah, we started out really small, and we were trying to find our bearings, so we just wanted Matt and I at first just to kind of, figure out what we're doing, really. And then, but once we got Mike on, we said, who else do we know? And you were one of the first guys that came up, so we're glad to have you finally.
absolutely.
I appreciate it. I'm also looking forward to the Obsessive Viewer podcast bump on my Twitter following.
Yes.
You can follow me at Patty_Kuhn, Kuhn.
Yes.
That'll be one follower.
Yes.
Well, after the memorable movie experience, I got a total of 0 following requests. So you guys are building an empire.
Yes. You'll get one or two.
We're in the empire business.
Exactly. So let's get to the meat of the episode. Today we're talking about zombies. I for one just love zombies. I'm a big fan of the genre, and I love it. I'm sure I've mentioned this before, but every October I call it Shocktober, and we call it Shocktober, and I watch a bunch of horror movies, horror related movies, everything. I consume it all in 1 month, and it leads to some very strange dreams, but it's also just a blast. And it reached a point in my zombie fandom that I reached a point where I started just doing zombie marathons. I used to sprinkle them throughout the month, but then now it's getting to a point where it's become such a big thing for me that I've made like zombie weeks. It started out with Zombie Day, where I just
Well, a couple of years ago, sorry to interrupt. A couple of years ago, I did like the Halloween on Halloween, which is kind of a tradition as far as I'm concerned.
Oh yeah.
And you did all zombies.
Yes.
That one day,
Yeah.
leading up to the premiere of Walking Dead.
Yes,
right?
it was the
Right.
series premiere of Walking Dead, and I watched Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, and Day of the Dead, and then Walking Dead. And it was an awesome day. But and then the next year I one upped it by doing Zombie Week, which was quite good. So I'm a huge fan of zombies, and I just wanted to kick things off by going down the line and get everyone's thoughts on the genre, on what they define as what a zombie is, or what constitutes the zombie lore, I guess. So why don't we start with Pat, because he's the guest.
All right. Actually, to be honest with you, I've kind of gone back and forth. I feel like there's either two extremes. There's either you adhere to the literal definition of a zombie, which is an animated corpse, like kind of in the vein of the Romero movies,
Mm-hmm.
or you're more into the spirit of the genre, which is the apocalypse and all the chips are down and people are just trying to survive, sort of like 28 Days Later. Now, of course, there's overlap in between the two, but I kind of flip-flop a lot, but I see myself more as a spirit kind of guy. Now, I just really enjoy the movies. I enjoy the moral ambiguity of it. Sorry that I started to do that. But,
It's okay. Of it is what he meant to say.
Yeah, that was the part that I struggled with. Thank you. I got totally sidetracked now. And just what I enjoy seeing what people would do when there's basically no rules. When there's an apocalypse and the government no longer exists, you're just trying to survive. The right and wrong gets kind of blurred. There's definitely more gray area. So I used to, when I first got involved really into the genre heavily, I was more kind of a pretentious D-bag about it. It was like, no, Romero is the only way. He's the only zombie. He only makes zombie movies, and the rest of them, they're terrible, and I hate them. But now, as I've grown up, I've just decided, you know what? It doesn't. They don't necessarily have to die and come back to life. It's more of the spirit of the genre.
Nice.
Awesome.
Tiny, do you want to go next?
Sure. Well, just for this episode, I actually went to the Merriam-Webster website and looked up zombie.
Say it the way you're supposed to start of Merriam-Webster.
I don't know what you mean.
Merriam-Webster defines.
Oh, yeah. Merriam-Webster.com defines zombie as... That's enough of that. But
that was like a South Park.
Do what?
By the way, ladies listening, Tiny is single.
Yes, I'm very single, if you couldn't tell. Anyways, as is typical, there are several different definitions of it. It does give a bit of an origin, which is apparently the word zombie comes from the West Indies and other like voodoo type believing cultures. It's a belief that some kind of supernatural power infuses a dead body and reanimates it. So that's what it means at its base.
I thought it originated from the Cranberries song.
No,
I'll stop. I'm done.
Yeah, you can edit that out.
Listen to Pat already. He's been on the show for 8 minutes.
Yeah, he's taken to it like a fish to water.
Yeah.
So. But then it also in this page for zombie, it makes as simple a definition as a person markedly strange in appearance or behavior. So a drunk person could technically be a zombie according to that. So what I'm trying to illustrate is there are so many different ends of the spectrum for what constitutes as a zombie and what doesn't. And I differ from Pat in that I have always just viewed it as just in the kind of in like to use his term, in the spirit of the zombie genre, just whatever qualifies as, someone could be infected or they raised from the dead or anything like that. you know, that it doesn't necessarily matter to me. I just enjoy the genre.
Nice. That's good. Mike, how about you?
Well, I'm kind of the resident non-zombie fan among the four of us. That's not to say that I don't appreciate zombie movies, but the ones I appreciate the most are the ones that do something different with it. Funny enough, they're the comedies,
Right?
the zombie comedies. You know, and I always appreciated Romero's idea of the zombie, that when hell is full, the dead will rise. I really liked that ideology. It was more of a social commentary about like the state of the world and the state of society, and how just we're so awful that we kind of did this to ourselves. I think that's interesting. But I don't know that my favorite zombie movies have that philosophy. You know what I mean? I think you get the best action and the best story and the most realistic when it's just like people with rabies. You know what I mean?
Interesting. Where I stand with zombies is I'm like Pat in that I feel like I can't remember if I mentioned this or not, but I'm more of the spirited variety of it. I don't get hung up on the definition of what it constitutes a zombie. I just know that it's the spirit of the genre is represented in a bunch of different kind of things, and I love it. I mean, I like Pat said, I love the breakdown of society and how it's basically this walking plague of just horror that's forces people to act in an extreme and improvised fashion that really brings out who they are as at their base level, and it's the kind of thing that I just love seeing those interactions. It's a great way to bring out some really interesting storytelling devices and for character drawing and all that. I love it. So what I wanted to do next was go down and see like what are some of your favorite zombie movies or works of zombie fiction. I've said before that Max Brooks's World War Z, the book. I haven't seen the movie yet, but it's not an adaptation of the book.
No, it is not.
No,
but it is awesome.
The book
is a fantastic movie. Movie. The book's great, but the movie is awesome.
I wouldn't go so far as say it's fantastic.
It's amazing.
I'm trying to detect if you're being sarcastic.
No, I'm not. That's a douchey thing to say. That's a callback to an older episode. No, I'm not being sarcastic at all.
Really?
I really, really genuinely loved it. Huh. I thought it was one of the best zombie movies of the last 100 years. I know that sounds sarcastic too. I don't mean to sound sarcastic.
It does. I'm having a bit of a stroke here.
I'm not sure exactly how to react to that, but
I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
I mean, lots of people love the movie. I think the general consensus is that it was quite well done. If your response is that you're disappointed in the adaptation of the book, it is by no means an adaptation of the book.
Right. Oh no, I actually originally went in and I had suspicions because of the trailer. I absolutely love the book. I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
But I went in kind of thinking that it wasn't going to be a page-by-page retelling of the book. And then I went in, and it wasn't anything.
There are no pages.
Yeah, there is zero pages.
My biggest gripe is that it's called World War Z.
Yeah.
But other than that, I thought it was really tense. Good action. It was interesting.
When I saw it in the theaters, I was disappointed because of that. Because it was nothing like the book. But then I bought it because I'm such a huge fan of the genre. I was like, well, maybe I should give this another shot. And I watched it recently because it just came out on DVD. And just in itself, it is a really good movie. If you just ignore the title and if you've never read the book before, you have no expectations. It is a very good movie.
Yeah.
It is a very good zombie movie.
And that's kind of what I'm trying to say. I think we kind of miscommunicated on the book thing. It is not an adaptation of the book whatsoever, and that must be clear to anybody going to see the movie.
Yeah.
But anyway, what were you saying?
I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to watch it before we do the potpourri, because I think I'm going to save Pat, if you can come back like a week or two later, we can pick up like the potpourri stuff, and then I can talk about World War Z then.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll just crash on Mike's couch.
Nice. Yeah, I'll have to watch World War Z then. I'm a little ill prepared for this, but because I it's to the point where I almost boycotted it, because just out of sheer disdain for what they did to Max Brooks' work, because I think World War Z...
Why? They didn't do anything to Max Brooks' work.
Except for steal the name.
Borrowed the title.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't steal it. I'm sure he got compensated.
Yeah,
he did get compensated, but it feels like that if you're going to take the title of something, you should at least honor what you're taking. And I feel like, I don't know, and I still think, and I've said this before on the podcast and just at random people on the street, that World War Z, the book, deserves to be like an HBO miniseries.
Definitely.
It really does. But World War Z, the book, is one of the best zombie anything I've experienced. And that's saying a lot, because I consume a lot of zombie stuff. But I just think the storytelling, the way that it's every facet of the war is depicted there, from families that are hiding out in the winter, like I think Canadian winter or something like that, to the military actions against the hordes of zombies, which that was a depiction that I've never really seen before. Like the Battle of Yonkers in the book is one of the best. It's intense, and it really illustrates the fatigue that soldiers feel, and how in a zombie war the zombies don't experience that, and how it's a real shock to morale. But I love the book, and I hope that someday someone adapts it properly.
So you're listening to Obsessive Reader. Come back after the break, where we talk about Max Brooks' zombie survival guide.
Yes.
Awesome.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Anyway, so the Walking Dead comics.
Why don't we go ahead and get Pat's, because we asked like what are your favorite movies and stuff. So let's start with Pat again, since he's our guest.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I would feel hard pressed to find I don't want to necessarily say just Night of the Living Dead, because I think each of the Dead movies has merit. Maybe not Survival of the Dead. That one wasn't very good.
Right.
But I literally cannot say anything worse than not very good about a Romero movie.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that wasn't very good.
Yeah.
But just the Dead movies in general, I have a lot of notes about. I'll try to keep them quick, because there are 6 of them. Of course, Night of the Living Dead, which is probably, it's hard for me to make a top 10 favorite movies of all time, because I've seen so many movies, but I would almost have to put that up there.
Yeah.
I really just absolutely love that movie. I could probably watch it every day and never get tired of it. I watch it and I get blown away every time I think about this was made in 1968. I cannot believe that a movie like this was made in the late 60s. It's amazing to me. And another thing that I wanted to bring up is, because it's in black and white, I don't think people realize how really gory it is.
Right.
If you watch it, they are literally eating the insides of people.
Especially for the late 1960s.
I mean,
Right.
Honestly, if it was in color today, I think people would have a hard time with how gory it is. It really, and of course it was done for budgetary reasons.
Right.
But, I mean, it definitely, it kind of blows you away how, I am a fan of the zombie genre, so I'm kind of used to gore, and I also like slasher films, so, that's definitely a staple of those movies as well.
Right.
So, but I'm, again, just blown away by how gory it is, especially in the 60s. And, of course, there's a bit of a twist ending. Spoilers if you haven't seen this movie, which I don't know what you're waiting for, because it's amazing.
Right.
Plus, you can watch it on YouTube for free. The whole movie's on YouTube. So, which is silly, but
It's funny that you know that.
I actually read that, and I was like, no, it can't be.
Yeah.
And it really is.
Yeah.
The entire movie's on YouTube. But anyways, the twist ending, I thought, I was already hooked the first time I saw this movie, but at the very end, you just assume, being a movie buff, that the good guy's gonna live.
Right.
And at the end, it's so cool how Romero just kind of puts that twist at the end where Ben, the main character, gets shot at the end because they think he's a zombie. I thought that was so cool, and of course I've seen all the M. Night Shyamalan movies. So. But I honestly, in the '60s, that would have been that like a Sixth Sense kind of twist at the end.
Yeah, I would have loved to have seen it like in a packed house, like opening night, like.
Totally.
Were there? I would say, were there any packed houses opening night for that movie?
Ah, that's a good point.
Didn't it flow kind of under the radar for a long time? I mean, it's more a cult.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
I would have liked
you know
to
what?
have seen it.
I guess I'm just kind of being a devil's advocate here. There was probably a showing of fans.
Yeah.
You know?
What I'm trying to say is, I would like to have seen it with a big group of people who weren't expecting it or hadn't had the.
I wonder if they have a screening of it on YouTube, because you can actually look at a packed theater for Halloween 1978.
Oh, really?
Reactions of the crowd on YouTube.
Wow.
Yeah, it's awesome. I will.
Cool.
We can link it on this episode.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I'll also link it to you guys.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Huh.
Okay. Pat, any more favorites?
Well, I mean,
what'd you think of Dawn of the Dead?
well, that was actually the next one I was going to bring up, obviously, because it's the next one. I thought, honestly, I say the word sequel in quotes,
Right.
because it's not actually a sequel. But I thought I really don't think that Dawn of the Dead gets, and maybe because it's not what you would think of a general sequel, I don't think it gets as much credit as being an impressive sequel, like with Aliens. I think it should be up in that tier with Godfather 2 and Aliens as being one of the few sequels that worked, even though, again, it's not a prototypical sequel. I have heard the argument that it's actually better than Night of the Living Dead, and then if you tell me that, like we're having that argument, I'm like, well, you're wrong, and I just walk away, because it's Night of the Living Dead is clearly the better movie. But I honestly, and this is coming from a guy that has literally George Romero's face tattooed on him, I actually think Zack Snyder's remake of Dawn of the Dead is better than the original.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yes, I was pleasantly surprised at how well that was done.
Well, I gotta add to this story just because I know you, Pat, and I've known you for so long. And I think, I could be wrong, but you saw Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead first, right? And that was kind of the kickoff. You saw that in high school when it came, 04, 03, 04, 05, whenever it came out. I think it was 04.
Yeah.
And that was like a big night. It's still a big memory for you as far as like horror movie
Oh,
goes.
yeah. I mean, that really was I knew that these movies existed, but it wasn't until I saw the remake of Dawn of the Dead that I went, oh, man, might be something that I'd be interested in exploring as far as the genre and as a whole. So, yeah, I mean, I would definitely have to put that up with as a memorable movie experience, just go and see that movie for the first time, because it kind of, I don't want to go as far as saying it's kind of set the course as far as my movies tastes are concerned, but I mean, it definitely had a big impact as far as, because I consider myself a huge fan of the genre, so that was definitely the first movie I went to and was like, man, this could be something that I'd be really interested in.
Yeah. I think it was the last good movie Zack Snyder made.
Well,
if you listen to the podcast, you know how I feel about Zack Snyder.
Right. Yeah.
And
I had
one
a similar.
more thing that I wanted to bring up. Sorry, Matt.
Oh, that's okay.
About the Dead movies and how I mean, they don't really follow like a trilogy or a series of movies would follow. But I did notice something that I wanted to bring up is, and really Dawn of the Dead, it kind of goes downhill a little bit after that. But I did find some connection in between them that I thought I thought it would be interesting to bring up. And I really call it it's the evolution of the movies. Is in Night of the Living Dead, the zombie apocalypse just happened. They're responding to the initial apocalypse. And then Dawn of the Dead, it seems like they've dealt with it for a little bit. And, yeah, they're still not really adjusting to it yet, but they've lived through it. And then Day of the Dead, which is fairly disappointing in my opinion, but they have almost started to learn how to live with the zombies, and they're starting if you haven't seen the movie, they are experimenting on them, so they're first starting to live with it within this world, this zombie apocalypse, and they're starting to try to find a cure. Before, they were just trying to survive,
right?
And now they're actually trying to find cure. And then Land of the Dead, they really have constructed this world around the zombies. They are now just living within. They even have an interesting. I think Land of the Dead, even though it's kind of silly that they learn how to shoot guns, but I really think it's a commentary on class structure, just the way the have and have-nots. Because John Leguizamo's character in the movie, he is fighting for this almost like a Elysium, where he's fighting to try to get his ticket into this city,
right?
And so I think it's very interesting because Romero's movies, there's always that underlying theme, and then Dire the Dead and Survival of the Dead, they don't really follow that structure.
Right.
But I thought it was interesting to kind of bring that up.
Yeah, I thought Diary of the Dead was surprisingly decent. I didn't think it would be. I wasn't expecting that much because I wasn't a huge fan of Land of the Dead. But I was pleasantly surprised with Diary of the Dead. But going back to Day of the Dead, I like it. I like it quite a bit, and it goes back to like your experience with watching the original or the remake of Dawn of the Dead in the theater is similar to my experience of watching 28 Days Later in the theater. And that kind of kickstarted my appreciation of zombies and made me want to seek out more, which I know a lot of the purists are they'll be up in arms about my calling 28 Days Later a zombie movie, but come on guys, it's a zombie movie.
It is if you enjoy the spirit of it.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's
get over it, listeners.
Right. But still listen to the podcast, guys.
Yeah, I'm kidding. Please love me.
Yes, please love me. But Day of the Dead, I thought it was interesting. I loved seeing the military and the scientists working together, begrudgingly together, and while the bub stuff with him becoming more like regaining some of his faculties and everything was kind of a little strange at first, but I got on board with it after repeat viewings. I like it.
See, honestly, that's where it lost me. I was just like, come on.
Yeah.
Really? You're going to teach him how to whistle and all this stupid stuff? It's just, I was just like, oh, okay. I was already kind of disappointed in the movie, but at that point I was just like, that's where it lost me.
Yeah, it's a stretch. But I don't know. I liked it, and I think what I was getting at was that my appreciation of it, or the way that I liked it more because I had seen 20 Days Later, and I could see watching Day of the Dead. I could see the way that Day of the Dead influenced 20 Days Later, in certain ways, like the military being the bad guy, and having a zombie chained up to research him and everything. I just kind of saw those kind of parts that were put into one of these movies that I love, and I kind of could appreciate it on that level. Having said that, has anyone seen the Day of the Dead remake?
No. It
is awful. It's I can't remember the actress in it. It was like Mina Suvari or somebody. But she I think it is Mina Suvari, but she plays a military, like, she plays a military person. And it's awful. It's it's Mina Suvari and Nick Cannon.
Ooh. What?
Yeah.
How have I not seen this?
Sold.
Nick Cannon's in it.
Nick Cannon's
Sign
in
me
it.
up.
IMDb has it as a 4.5 rating.
That is a crime.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awful, but yeah, it's seek it out if you can. But it's horrible. But anyway, so yeah, Romero definitely. You can't talk about zombies and not talk about Romero. And I personally, I love Dawn of the Dead. I think that I go back and forth with how much if I love it more than Night of the Living Dead.
You're wrong. Podcast over.
Yeah, right.
Can any of you guys make clear to me why the first one is Night of the Living Dead, and then from then on they're all just dead? Like, why did they drop the living from the title?
I think it's because it was the very first time that it was ever.
Just the idea of
it. That was the advent of the zombie, and so it kind of, I guess they wanted to be a little more clear in the title. I think that's the only reason you need to.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
That's the only reason why it's there. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Drop the living. It's cleaner.
Yeah.
It's cooler.
It's cooler. But yeah. So next up, I kind of wanted to. We're kind of freeballing in here, but I kind of wanted to talk about the fanboy outrage and fanboy just nonsense about the definition of zombies and how people say, like, 20 Days Later isn't a zombie movie, but it is a zombie movie. It, like I said, it is.
Well, who are these people? Because I think the people watching Night of the Living Dead are also watching anything made post 2000. You know what I mean? I feel like the people complaining are the old people who don't matter anymore.
You know, I don't actually think that that's the case. I think it's more people that are just like people that love zombie movies, and then they maybe they just love hearing themselves talk because it's very clear. And you mentioned that people watch post 2000 zombie movies a lot. I was going to make this argument that I watched a couple years ago. I watched this documentary called Zombie Mania that kind of basically went through the entire evolution of the zombie genre, and there was a stat that I can't remember the exact stat, but it said something like over 50%, maybe 60 or 70% of zombie movies that have been released were released post 9/11.
Wow.
Yeah.
I believe that, though.
Oh yeah, which I thought was it's interesting. It's an interesting reflection of our society, in that, I mean, this terrible event happened, so we kind of, as a reflection of that, we produce these movies that are about humanity at its most dire moment, and how people react under utter chaos and all that. But it's I just think it's interesting that people get up in arms about 20 Days Later not being a zombie movie, because while they aren't zombies, they are infected, or why they aren't traditional zombies, as they're infected with the rage virus, they're still zombies in that they represent what Romero was trying to do in a way. Would you guys agree?
Definitely.
I would agree, and it kind of calls back to what I made the joke about myself personally being kind of pretentious, and I feel like sometimes people say things just to be outrageous and get a reaction from you, like, oh, 28 Days Later isn't a zombie movie. You're wrong. This is the only zombie movies. And me personally, I used to be like that. So I just feel like sometimes people have such strong opinions just so they have strong opinions.
That's actually probably the best way to describe it, actually. And there is pretension there when they talk about it like that. I had a point, but I forgot it. Oh, and if people like legitimately get offended when they say like, "Oh yeah, 20 days later those zombies were crazy" or whatever, if they get like legitimately offended or get up in arms about it, like my go-to response is, if you think that the literal definition of if you're a zombie purist and you feel like zombies should only be the living dead that rise up and attack in hordes and all that stuff, then you're by definition you're wrong, because the first zombie movie is White Zombie from like the 30s or something. And in that, it's just this guy in I think it was Tahiti or the Caribbean or something. He used zombies, the reanimated dead, as laborers. And that, so, I mean, if you want, after around 2004 with 20 Days Later and everything, there's a resurgence of zombie movies, and it's a new era of zombie movies. And I'm not to say that it's as influential as Romero, because I mean you can't top Romero at all. But it carries on that spirit in its own way. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well,
True.
Sorry, Tiny. I just got to a point where I analyzed why I love these movies. And the reasons I love the Romero movies are the same reasons I love 28 Days Later. So I got to a point where, you know what? That's a zombie movie. I liked it. I like the Romero movies. They're very similar, other than the fact that the zombies, I just did the air quotes, even though you can't see me do that. Even though the zombies didn't actually die, I mean,
yeah.
I don't see the reason why you would get up in arms about something like that. If you enjoy the movie, then you enjoy the movie. Whether or not it's technically a zombie movie, who cares?
Exactly. So switching gears a little bit, let's talk about The Walking Dead. By the time that I'm gonna post this episode the Friday before the fourth season premieres, and I just wanted to get like a quick gauge of everyone of how they feel about the show as a whole. Just a general statement about it. Let's start with Tiny, I guess.
Okay. I think the show had a pretty solid start to it. It wasn't exactly like the comics, actually. It's pretty different from the comics, but I think it's a fun representation of the genre, because I feel like every episode, even still into the end of the third season, they feel like every episode needs to have a part where the group has to interact with zombies and they have to kill them. Whenever Matt and I talk about it, we kind of we steal the term "zombie kill of the week" from the movie Zombieland, because every episode of The Walking Dead has a really cool way that they kill zombies. Like, you know, in one episode, Rick shoots through a zombie's head and the zombie falls on him, and then he pokes his gun barrel through the wound and shoots another zombie in the head. That's pretty awesome.
That's one of my favorites.
And it seems like every episode has something like that. So that's one aspect I love about the show. And then just the fact that it illustrates, it tries to balance that with the sincere and heartfelt drama that goes with characters trying to make it in a post-apocalyptic world. And I think most of the acting's pretty good. The writing's pretty good, but sometimes it gets a little bogged down with that stuff, especially that second season on the farm. That was just, dear God, that was laborious.
Yeah.
But I still think it's a really fun show. I love watching it. I think it's great.
Nice. Mike and Pat, whichever one wants to go first, what did you guys think of Walking Dead so far?
I will not be watching it come season premiere time.
Understandable.
And I did not watch the last 2 or 3 episodes of season 3. I just couldn't take it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I The show promised something in the first 3 episodes that I don't think it ever delivered.
Interesting.
And I wonder if it had to do with my mood and the fact that it was Halloween when it aired, and it just had a really good tone to it. I really, really appreciate the first episode of the series, but the laboriousness that you refer to in season 2, I think started in episode 4 of the show and hasn't stopped for the most part. Now there have been moments of great action, I think. In particular, like the barn scene at the end of season 2, I thought was pretty interesting. I think that a lot of the beginning of season 3 was interesting. I actually quit watching after the first half of season 1, picked it up again later, and kind of caught up because everybody was freaking out about Shane and all that. So I watched that, and then I watched the season 3 premiere, and then with all the other shows that I picked up come fall, I just took stock of what was important, what I needed to watch, and consistently every week Walking Dead was never a must-watch show, and its popularity confounds me. Well, it doesn't confound me. Let me go back. It is popular because it's the only zombie show on television.
Right.
But it is not the zombie show that zombie fans deserve. And I'm not one of them. You know what I mean? I'm not a zombie fan, but I feel like you guys deserve better than this show.
Right.
I think it is so incredibly boring.
Interesting. Pat, how about you?
And sorry.
Oh, sorry.
And also racist. I made a joke last year when it happened about how they have a very strict one black male character at a time policy.
And one of them name was T-Bone.
One of them
T-Dog.
T-Dog. Literally
T-Dog,
T-Dog. And they said it in a serious way, T-Dog. They're like, okay, that's cool that you're going to bring Tyrese on the show. How are you going to kill T-Dog? Oh, wait, what? Well, we have a strict one black character at a time policy. Oh, yeah. We're just going to shoot him.
Ugh. Yeah,
agreed.
I've had the anecdote before or I've shared this that, when he died in season 3, when T-Dog died in season 3.
T-Bone.
I'm just going to start calling him T-Bone.
Nice. You just made a fool of yourself for the T-Bone, but but when T-Dog died, there's a scene where he's like guiding after he's been bitten and all that or whatever. He's going through the tombs or whatever in the prison, and he's trying to guide out Carol, and he's like, I just know that this is God's plan for me and all that. And all I thought was, T-Dog's religious. Who knew? Because didn't really have any other. That's like the only character development that we've seen of him.
Yeah,
and it's
right,
as he's
exactly.
dying. But
exactly.
But Pat, what do you think of the Walking Dead TV show overall?
Well, I kind of go back and forth. There's episodes where it's okay, we get it. They're in a zombie apocalypse. It's hard to deal with this. They're going through all these emotions, and then it's like, and then there's episodes where I'm like, wow, that was really, really good. I thoroughly enjoyed that. I was actually on the edge of my seat. And then it just goes through stretches where it's, like Mike said, it's just really boring. Mm-hmm. I thought, honestly, I knew about the comic book before I watched the show, but I hadn't actually read it, even though I am a comic book fan. And so I saw the show, saw the first couple episodes, and I was like, you know what? This is not bad, but it's not great. But I'm such a huge fan of the genre. I was like, well, I'll give it a shot. And then I started reading the comic books, and it was so far and away better than the show that
way better.
I actually stuck with the show longer than I may have because I like the comic book so much.
I'll add to that I think I watched season 3 or went back to watch season 2 out of respect, like I owed it to Robert Kirkman, because the comics are so great.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Pat, are you going to be watching season 4?
Yes, I will definitely be watching season 4. Yeah. I was actually getting to that.
Okay.
I think it's gotten progressively better. I feel like it's almost found its stride. There are, like I said before, there are some episodes where I'm like, all right. Yeah, definitely The Farm season 2. I'm like, all right, you've been here for a while. Like in the comic book, they're not at the farm for very long.
No, not at all.
And it was just like, and I knew the prison was after the farm, and I was just like, come on, let's get to the prison.
Right. I
was really looking forward to the governor, and I really liked his character in the show. I felt like, as a fan of the comic book, you almost know from the first panel that the governor is a bad dude.
Mm-hmm.
And then I liked how they I feel like Robert Kirkman kind of said, okay, maybe I can make this character better by making him a little bit more, like, more of a gray area. Like, you're not sure. You see the zombie heads and the guy heads in the aquarium, and you're like, okay, he's probably a bad guy. But then you sympathize with the fact that he has this zombie girl, and he's trying to find a cure for her. Yeah. So you kind of go back and forth whether or not if he's a bad guy or not. And then by the end of season 3, of course, you hate him.
Right.
But, yeah, I really feel like they are starting to find their stride, and I'm looking forward to season 4.
But remember, that stride that it might have found was in the showrunner who came on for season 3 and is now gone.
That's what I was going to say about the show.
Well, he doesn't, well... I don't know.
It's a tricky subject because you had the way, like, here's how I feel about the show. Basically, season 1, I was on board because Frank Darabont is one of my favorite filmmakers. Frank Darabont. Did I say Frank Darabont?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I didn't get a lot of sleep today. But I was on board. I was on board from the start because Frank Darabont is one of my favorite filmmakers ever. And I just thought, like, okay, Frank Darabont is going to do a zombie TV series. I'm there. So I watched the first season, and I was a little like, okay, there's a lot of room for improvement. I thought that it could have been a lot better, but it also could have been worse. And then season 2 came around, and Frank Darabont was fired, whatever. And then I was like, okay, all right. Glenn Mazzara is going to be running the show, and I'm a huge fan of The Shield, and he was a big part of the creation of The Shield, or the writing staff of The Shield. He was one of the writers on there. So I was like, okay, well, it's in good hands. And then season 2, like it's popular for everyone's opinion is pretty much the same, that they spent way too much time on the farm. But one of my big complaints with season 2 was also it was that they spent 7 episodes looking for Sophia, and it was 7 episodes of just the same plot over and over again. And then later in the season, when they discover the barn is filled with zombies, and Herschel's all like in the books, it's clear, like, he has a strict moral thing. He's like, yes, it's because it's immoral to kill them because they're still human and everything. Which in the show, it doesn't translate to the show, because in season 1 they had the CDC plotline where they had the guy literally show them, like, clear as day, show the brain shut down and then reactivate. You can't, like, he actually, I think he says, like, almost exactly the words, the humans die and the walkers become, like, they're walkers, they're not human anymore. And then we had, like, an episode or 2 or 3 of Herschel being all like, no, we can't kill the zombies and everything, and not one person was like, dude, we actually met this dude who was like, they're dead.
Yeah.
Yep. And when it came up, it was just like, I threw up my arms, just like, all right, fine, finally. But season 3 was I agree, season 3 was better, but it was also still fairly inconsistent. The show, that's probably the best word I can use to describe the show, is that it's inconsistent. The series, the season 3 was, I loved the governor stuff. I loved the Woodbury stuff. Like, the governor is very different from the book, like Pat said. I love that he's more of kind of a politician in the show. I just thought it was a good performance by David Morrissey, right? But I don't know. Moving forward, I'm excited to see Tyrese in the show. I'm excited to see him and Rick kind of butt heads. And also, I just think that the tone, like Glenn Mazzara is off the show now, and next season the showrunner is the guy who is the credited writer for what is far and away one of my favorite episodes of the series to date. It's Clear, where Rick meets up, re-meets up with what is his name?
Morgan.
The man from
Morgan,
the first
yeah.
episode, Morgan, yeah.
Yeah, which I thought that episode was just absolutely fantastic.
It is by far my favorite episode of the series.
Yeah.
Same here.
Yep.
Mine's the pilot. I don't think it ever matched the pilot.
Understandable, because the pilot was
the-
actually really good.
The pilot is great, and the pilot, and I guess it's because I love the comic so much, the pilot is the best representation of the tone of the first arc of the comic.
Very true. The show premiered the same, like within weeks after Boardwalk Empire premiered, and I know I talk a lot about that show, but and both of those shows were like my favorite pilots of that year, and it was just far and away, like they were both incredible, and like The Walking Dead was the only one that Boardwalk Empire is one of the best pilots I've ever seen, and The Walking Dead is the only one that came close to being near that.
I thought that guy who landed his plane and saved all those people was my favorite pilot of the year. I'm sorry. I said that I would stop. With
It
bad
took
jokes.
me a second. I was like, wait, what?
So stupid. That was so dumb. I'm not even smiling. I just regretted it halfway through. But I was like, I already committed, so I'm gonna go with this joke.
That was,
You know what I'm talking about with the white hair and the mustache?
Yeah.
We could do this at my house from now on.
Look at Pat.
Yes.
Mike's like,
Taking the
hey
reins.
guys, when do we record the podcast? Oh no, Mike, we'll let you know.
Yeah. That's great. So yeah, where do you guys see The Walking Dead going forward from here? Yeah.
I'll say I don't care, and then let you guys have the floor. My hope. I'm sorry. I guess I have more to say. My hope is that more people catch on that it's not good, and they either make it better or the spin-off, the totally undeserved spin-off series or second series is good.
I completely forgot about that. Do we need to talk about it?
No, no,
No.
we don't.
It seems unnecessary, but yeah. Anyway, so where do you guys see the show? What do you want to see from the show?
I guess I'm not up to date with the comics on it, so I'm not quite sure where the story goes from here in the comics, but it seems like they kind of use it as a loose template anyways, so I don't know. I guess I agree with Mike to an extent. I hope that it gets better, because I think it can be so lackluster, but sometimes it's so good. I'd like to see some solidarity in the show, because the prison has just seemed like they've been at the prison for like a whole season, but it feels like they've only been there for like 2 episodes.
Yeah.
Because they have yet to. It feels like they have yet to set up there. I don't know. I guess I got a much different feeling in the comics than I did with the show. So I don't know. I hope there's just more solidarity in the show all around.
Right. Pat, how about you?
Well, I might be in the minority here, but I kind of want the governor to die. Like, I was very disappointed because the season premiered last season. I was like, okay, finally something's gonna happen with the governor, because you knew he wasn't gonna either die or go away until the last episode of the season.
Right.
So I was kind of like, okay, I'm excited to see what they're gonna do with him. And now it just kind of seems like, okay, let's milk this teat a little bit
Totally
longer.
a cop out. Yeah, really.
It was like he just gets away at the very last, and it's just, come on, man. You wanted to use the governor a little bit longer, and I can't stand that. I really wish they would just give him closure and move on.
I agree. And one of the laughably bad things in last season was toward the end of the season. I think it may have been the second to last episode or the last episode, where the governor brings his army to the prison, and they attack it and all that. And then, like, it's built up through a season-long arc to be this huge battle, and maybe that's the point, that it was just this little pissant army thing or whatever. And then the prison team, they push him back and all that. Like each one like shoots like twice, and then they leave. And then they're all like, "Oh yeah, we did it! Yeah, awesome!" And I was like, "You're cheering way too much for what little action just transpired."
That's kind of par for the course for the show.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
But switching gears again. Any parting thoughts on The Walking Dead? By the way, anyone?
No.
No, that's about it.
Okay. In recent years, there's been two very strong zombie comedies, Shaun of the Dead and Zombieland. And they both came out kind of within a few years apart, or maybe 4 or 5
I don't know
years.
about that. Yeah, about 5.
Yeah, but they stand as being like pretty much the only two like zombie comedies, maybe ever, unless you count the Day of the Dead remake.
Was kind of a comedy.
Oh yeah, Warm Bodies. That was.
Yeah, but it kind of sucked.
It did.
Yeah,
I had a
Yeah, it
bad
wasn't that
theater
great.
experience anyway with that, because I was sick during it. But Zombieland and Shaun of the Dead are kind of kindred spirits, slightly. Where do you guys stand on, like, which one do you prefer? Which one do you like? What do you guys think about those two movies?
I would. Were you going to talk, Tiny? You can go ahead.
No, go ahead.
They are far and away my favorite zombie movies together. It's like the two of them, whichever I decide to put first, and then like Spaces, and then like the Dawn of the Dead remake. just whatever. But and they're pretty equal as far as I'm concerned. I would just give the slight edge to Zombieland because Bill Murray's in it.
Oh yeah.
I would give the slight edge to anything because Bill Murray's in it.
Right. Understandable. Yeah. Pat, how about you? Sorry.
Well, I mean, I disagree with Mike because Shaun of the Dead, for me, it's 1, 2, Shaun of the Dead 1, Zombieland 2, and I honestly don't think it's even that close. And it's not because I don't like Zombieland. I really enjoy that movie. It's just that I love Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah.
It's so good, and it's so funny.
I think I've seen Shaun of the Dead too many times. It's not as funny. That's a problem for me with comedies. Is once I've seen it too many times, I watched comedies so much when I was younger that I would like memorize the jokes and be able to quote them. And now I get to the point where if I can quote them, then I'm like, I've seen it too much. And I think I've just seen Shaun of the Dead so many more times that off the top of my head, I say Zombieland is better. You're probably right. It's probably a better movie, but Bill Murray's kind of the trump card.
Yeah, that scene is so good. I like words cannot describe how happy I was during that scene, seeing it for the first time. It was amazing.
We saw that, didn't we? See that together?
I don't remember.
I feel like we did. The Roomies.
But have you guys seen the TV series? I say series in quotes because it was only one episode.
But this time he didn't actually do quotes.
No.
Right. The Amazon pilot for Zombieland.
Yes.
The show.
Have you actually seen it?
I watched the first. I made it maybe 3 minutes, 3 maybe 4 minutes in, and I was like, nope.
Yeah, I think I might have watched maybe 10 minutes, and I honestly, it reminded me of like a porno spoof of a movie, and there just wasn't any.
Well, I thought you said it was bad.
There just wasn't any sex in it. It was just so bad, and it was so. I mean, obviously they're playing the same characters, but it was they didn't get anybody. And I've seen so much that it's hard for me to watch something that I haven't at least seen someone maybe in a commercial. I had never seen any of these actors before, and it was so clear that they were just like try. I mean, obviously because they were cast as the same characters, but it was just so bad.
What I picture in my head is Tyler Perry's Zombieland. And just like that, you know how the sets on that show are just awful?
Yeah.
That's what I picture. And then just like reading horrible lines.
Yeah, it was. I wouldn't even say that it was trying too hard from the 3 or 4 minutes that I watched of it. It was just, I don't know how to characterize it, but it just seemed like the characters were trying to emulate, the actors were trying to emulate the actors in Zombieland, which, I mean, if you're going to be cast as the same characters, I mean, sure, there's a little bit of that needs to be done, but also make it your own.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. That's really hard to do. That's like when, in Dumb and Dumber, when they were basically just doing impressions of the people.
Yeah.
Because what I really like about Zombieland is the people they cast in that movie are so idiosyncratic. It's like Jesse Eisenberg is very specific, and Woody Harrelson's very specific. The only one who's not very special is Abigail Breslin, but she's like 12. But you could only do impressions of those people. Mm-hmm. Even Emma Stone, who's awesome.
Yeah, and if you're going to make a series, or if you're going to, which it's interesting because Zombieland was originally envisioned as a series, as a TV show, and then they change it up to make it a movie. Which it's interesting also that I read the original, like I think the first draft of the script, and it's not as good as what the final cut was. So I don't know what that means for the show or anything like that, or if the same people are involved. But if you're going to make a TV show out of a movie that has such a wide fan base, either cast the original people or make new characters and just continue it in spirit.
Agreed.
Yeah. Agreed. I'll say on this, I prefer Shaun of the Dead just very, very slightly to Zombieland. Shaun of the Dead is one of my favorite movies. Like, it's easily in my top 10. Just not just comedies or horror, but my favorite movies of all time. And I think what sets it apart is the fact that it's so representative of the genre, because it references so many classic zombie movies, and it's not just about funny characters or funny people who are in the middle of a zombie apocalypse, which that's what Zombieland is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true.
But at the same time, Zombieland, they have the rules and all that stuff, and the
Zombie Killed the Week.
The narration.
They both, in a sense, lampoon horror movies while also being a horror. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
While also being zombie movies. I guess that's what lampooning is, but they both do that.
Right. So yeah, I guess I if I had to pick a favorite, I'd say Shaun of the Dead, but Zombieland is also just Woody Harrelson's one of my favorite actors too. So.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they're both incredible. I love both of them.
Yeah.
I don't think somebody would be wrong to choose either one as a favorite.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I come down on it with I love Shaun of the Dead. I have more love for Shaun of the Dead because they both pay tribute to the zombie genre, but Shaun of the Dead pays tribute to it in a more, not, I hesitate to say respectful, but out of a more like, these are the movies that we love, let's honor them with this comedy that we're making. Whereas Zombieland does it in a way that's like, this is a cool kind of a cool fresh take on the zombie genre, and let's pay tribute to the tropes and the different things that you see in zombie movies in a fun way.
Mm-hmm. Not to get too inside, but was the first time you saw that also the first time I saw that movie?
Shaun of the Dead?
You were like trying to get to sleep and also watched it. Was that the first time you saw it?
Right. After listening to you watch it, I was like, okay, I'm gonna definitely check it out because it's gonna be something I'm gonna really love.
Yeah.
And I did.
Yeah, but you not so much listening to the movie, just listening to me. Like, he used to just sit and listen to me.
Yes.
Like
I still
sometimes
do.
I would
I
step up to
installed
get to the
some-
bathroom, and he'd be like sitting at the foot of my bed, just like with his ear to the bedpost, hoping to get the vibrations of my voice. It was weird. I loved it, but it was weird.
Yeah, I still do that too. When I was down at your house last weekend, I may have installed some equipment in your room. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what the listener should take from this little segment is that Mike's a dick roommate watching movies while his roommate's trying to sleep, and Matt is a weirdo creep.
That was pretty much our relationship.
That
Yeah.
pretty much was.
Yep.
Have we told the story about the
The
creepy
time
story?
I had to rough up a suspect.
No, the how many pounds are in a ton?
I feel like maybe on the first episode we did talk
Maybe.
about it.
Yeah, this
Anyway.
definitely sounds something like definitely
Yeah.
podcast worthy.
Yeah.
Find out.
Well, now that I've built it up so much. But anyway, one night I was
Yeah.
asleep, or one night I was trying to sleep, and Mike woke up in a weird half sleeping daze. He said, he said,
Hey Matt,
yeah.
how many ounces are in a pound?
How many pounds are in a ton? is
How many
what-
pounds are in a ton?
And I was like, what? I don't know. And then he said,
Find out.
in that tone, and it was freaking scary. It was
I
weird.
just rolled over and went to sleep. Do you know what? We have definitely told this story because I remember saying ounces into a pound and you
Oh,
correcting
really?
me.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Man. So, anyway, on the Obsessive Reader, we've run out of things to talk about.
Yeah. So, I think to kind of wrap things up with the zombie topic, I don't know exactly. Like, what are some obscure zombie movies that people feel like you guys feel like people should seek out if they haven't seen already? Pat, let's start with you.
Well, I actually almost brought it up while we were talking about zombie comedies because I kind of feel like it fits because I laughed pretty hard during it. It's a movie called Dead Snow,
Oh yes,
which I absolutely love. I was originally introduced to it because me and my buddy Jeff, who's the best man in my wedding, we used to play Call of Duty with Nazi zombies. I mean, it's an awesome game if you've ever played it, but you literally just shoot Nazi zombies, and it makes zero sense. There's no goal to the game. You literally will die at the end. But and so I had heard that they were making a Nazi zombie movie, and I was like, I must see this. And so I watched it, and I was really, really surprised at just how good it was. Like, I knew it was going to be ridiculous because obviously Nazi zombies, and spoiler alert, they're after the gold.
yeah.
So I just thought that was I was really surprised at how much I liked it, and I laughed throughout the movie. I really enjoy movies that understand what they are and just kind of feed off that. And it's kind of I know it's a loose association, but I kind of lump this in with like Snakes on a Plane. They know that the concept itself is ridiculous, and they just kind of play off of that. And I really enjoy movies like that.
Yeah, it was very self-referential, and it was very it was kind of a send-up of the genre, kind of in the same vein as Zombieland or Shaun of the Dead a little bit, but more graphic.
Definitely.
But that's a great movie. Good pick. Mine, I'll go ahead and give mine too because that reminded me of something of mine. But this movie called The Horde, it's fantastic. It's like it's a movie about a group of police officers or a SWAT unit or something like that go to this apartment block to for some reason I don't remember, and it comes under attack by a zombie horde. It's the zombie apocalypse happens, so it's played straight as a crime drama of this group of cops that go to this apartment block because I think one of their own was killed by this gangster, and so they're going to kill him. So they go there, and then the zombie zombies come, and then they have to work together with the gangsters to get out of it. And it's this very cool, very interesting style where it's this kind of this martial arts kind of, or not martial arts, but kind of this more action heavy, like gunfight thing, and instead of like horror elements. It's a very cool movie. It's last I checked, it was on Netflix. Both Dead Snow and The Horde are on Netflix, so definitely check it out if you're looking for some zombie, some cool zombie movies and action sequences in zombie movies. Tiny, how about you? Do you have any obscure zombie movies?
The first thing that came to mind was actually TV. I've been doing a rewatch of Community, and one of my favorite episodes of that show is their Halloween episode where they have a Halloween party at the local community college, and they eat some toxic taco meat or something like that, and everybody turns into a zombie. And it's one of my favorite zombie things. It's just so much fun because they cram so much zombie token stuff, classic aspects of the zombie stories into a half-hour episode of television, and it's just so much fun. I loved it, and it's really funny, of course. Nice. So that's what I would say. I will say real quick that I think there's a book that's out. I think it's called Pride and Prejudice and Zombies.
Oh yeah,
I've never read it, but I've heard it's really good, and it's supposed to be funny, kind of tongue-in-cheek like that as well. They're supposed to be making a movie, I think. But I've one of the things I love about the zombie genre is that it's infiltrated every facet of media because, like Pat mentioned earlier, there's zombie video games now. Their Resident Evil games have been around for a while, but there's video games, there's books, there's comics, there's movies, TV. There's just so much that you can do now with the genre, and one area I'd love to see it expand into is books. There's just so much to do with it. That one's at the top of my list to read, Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. Nice. It sounds cool.
And listeners, if you have any suggestions or anything, let us know for books, movies, anything. But also, it's funny you mentioned about zombie genre kind of permeating through all of these different media things. There's a fitness app called Zombies Run. It's basically a thing where you start it up on your phone, and it's basically like this game that you play where you're listening to it like on the treadmill or when you're on your run or whatever, and it'll tell you it'll be like, okay, you're walking through the jungle or whatever, you're trying to get to this depot where you can get supplies and everything, and then intermittently through it, it's like the zombies are coming for you, and the music swells, and you have sound effects and everything, and you have to run, and it uses GPS and like other ways to monitor how fast you're going, and it'll kind of tell you if you get away from the zombies. It's really cool and really it's really awesome.
So you couldn't do it on a treadmill?
No, you can because it'll I think it like when you do that, you can set it to where it uses the vibrations of the phone as it moves around in your pocket or something like that. I think you hold it in your hand, and the way you pump your
it's
arms.
just hard to speed up quickly on a treadmill.
It is hard. It is hard. But it's not impossible. I've done it before, and it's pretty cool. Gotcha. It made me feel kind of weird because I'm sitting there like getting,
because you're looking around.
Yeah, I'm getting really into this, and like I've wanted to take it to like there's a park nearby, like a big it's one of the largest parks in the area or whatever. I kind of want to go through the trails and everything because it's a heavily wooded area, but I'm always like, if I'm gonna look like an idiot because I'd get.
You'll be like a lone LARPer.
A what?
A LARPer, like a solo
yes,
LARPer.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's just this guy prancing through the woods. And listeners, by the way, Matt prances.
Yes, that's how I run. Yeah. But yeah, that's good. Mike, do you have any obscure zombie anything?
Sure. Well, I'll start with, you mentioned a book, Tiny, and I want to, I'll see you and I'll raise you Death Troopers. It's a zombie book that takes place in the Star Wars universe.
Oh,
yeah.
Awesome.
It is
Awesome.
It was one of my favorite reads last year. It's a really quick read, and I won't say much about it except that it is what you would expect from zombie fiction, and it also has some little Star Wars treats and Easter eggs in there.
Cool
for Star Wars fans. As far as movies are concerned, I would probably recommend. I don't know if it's that hidden. I think a lot of people have seen it, but Rec, which is a Spanish movie. It actually came first, and they remade it into Quarantine. I saw Quarantine first, actually with a group of 4 guys, including Pat, and we were kind of split down the middle. Pat and one friend did not like it, and another friend and I really did like it. But then I saw the Spanish version Rec and just liked it even more. It's a zombie movie, of course, but it's also found footage, and it takes place in this small apartment building, so you kind of get the claustrophobia as well as the fear of the zombies just coming after you. So it kind of, not only is it zombies, but the tension of the confined space of the apartment is really pretty terrifying.
Nice. Good.
Cool.
I recommend Rec.
Oh, see what he did?
See that? You see that?
That's
Brilliant.
all right. Well, I think that covers zombies for us.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but all this zombie talk has things kind of stinky in here. I think we should freshen it up with a little bit of potpourri. What do you guys think?
Sounds good.
I love it.
Yeah?
Smells good.
Of course, this is the part of the show, everyone's favorite part of the show, where we talk about anything as long as it smells good, what we're looking forward to, what we've just seen recently. We usually keep it current, but because we're in the thick of Shocktober, we can kind of talk about a Shocktober movie if we want. So, Matt, you want to start?
Sure. I just recently today watched World War Z, which we talked about it a bit in the show, but I actually just now saw it. I approached this movie with such a disdain for it because of its loose interpretation of what I feel is one of the best zombie books of all time. But actually, upon watching it, I could appreciate it for what it was. It was a fun action movie, and I was surprised how much I enjoyed the way the zombies move, the way the zombies, they're fast zombies, but they move in hordes that they kind of flow like kind of like a water-like way. They're like one fluid substance as the bulk of them, and I thought that was terrifying actually.
Yeah.
And it was cool. It was the one unique thing about the movie, because the rest of it was very derivative of past zombie movies. There's actually a part in it where the score was very reminiscent from 28 Days Later, which bugged me a lot. The score, the use of the score, but all in all, I thought it was okay. It wasn't too bad.
I think I liked most of it. My least favorite part was the movement of the zombies.
Really?
Funny enough. Yeah, I liked the idea, but I thought the CGI didn't look good enough.
Yeah.
It was almost laughable for me.
Really?
Again, like, the idea is creepy. I liked that they all moved in a fluid motion, but it was so fluid that it was so clearly computer generated that it took me right out. Anytime there was a zombie on the screen, it took me out of the movie.
I'll give you that. It didn't bother me that much, but I can see how it would.
I think the only thing I liked about it was I thought it was kind of clever how they dealt with it, giving everybody the virus.
See, that I thought okay, it was a clever, like, it made sense. It was clever, but I just thought it was funny that they're like, okay, we're gonna fight these zombies by injecting ourselves with, like, we're gonna expose ourselves to debilitating illnesses or whatever, which isn't necessarily what they did, but it was kind of that theory, I guess.
Yeah, but it stopped the zombies, which
it
is a
did.
much, much bigger problem. Lesser two evils kind of thing.
Sure. And I do want to call out one section, one line or whatever that probably my favorite part of the movie was when they first land wherever they go the first time. and Brad Pitt's talking to the doctor, the research guy, and the research guy was like, Mother Nature is a serial killer. And he goes on this monologue about how Mother Nature is killing us and leaving these clues behind on how we can, like in terms of viruses kill humans, but there's these little trails, these little crumbs left along that can be clues as to how to stop it. And I just thought that was a cool analogy.
Guys, where'd all the bees go?
Oh, jeez.
Nice.
So I thought that was cool, and I kind of wonder because there's like half a dozen screenwriters that are attributed to this movie, and one of them is Damon Lindelof. So I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I bet Damon Lindelof probably wrote that line.
Probably.
I assume so. I have no basis for that. So
Yeah.
yeah. So what did you guys watch?
I don't know. Should we ask our guest?
Yes, Pat. How about you?
I recently watched a movie I've been looking forward to for quite some time, Gravity.
Yes. Nice.
The space movie with Sandra Bullock and George Clooney.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty much no one else is in this movie. It is just Sandra Bullock and George Clooney.
Nice.
But doesn't it feature a cast of billions?
Oh, God.
I think we're all extras in it.
But I did actually, after I got I loved the movie, by the way.
Nice.
Cool. I know you guys have said that you haven't seen it, and I know Mike's going to see it. I'm sure you two will as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to spoil it for you.
Yes, please
But
don't.
I did appreciate, there was just one little thing that I wanted to mention before I forget is, I noted they do talk to their mission control during the movie, and I thought I recognized the voice while I was watching the movie. It kind of took me out a little bit, but it's actually Ed Harris, who is in Apollo 13, which I kind of thought was a neat little Easter egg. I'm sure it's not coincidence, but I thought it was a cool little thing.
That's awesome. I actually picked up his voice in the trailer, and I was like, "Is that Ed Harris?" And I couldn't remember who it was, and until you just mentioned that. That's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, it was very cool. I looked it up as soon as I got home. That's how much you can always tell how much I like a movie is if I need to know everything about it as soon as I get out of the movie, and that's exactly what I was going to IMDb.com. I was Wikipediaing. I was finding everything I could about this movie, immediately afterwards.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Are there any long takes in it? Like long uninterrupted takes?
Yeah, there are. There's there's a few scenes.
Okay.
What I really appreciated about and I almost, my buddy Tyler, who went and saw the movie with me, we both do Shocktober, which is obviously you watch a horror movie a day for all of October.
Mm-hmm.
I almost counted this as my Shocktober movie for that day because it's not quite the stereotypical horror movie, but for me at least, and I know people throw around this cliche a lot that you're on the edge of your seat, and very rarely do I watch a movie and I'm on the edge of my seat, but I was literally on the edge of my seat. Nice. There was moments where I was like, this is absolutely terrifying to me because especially, I'm not ruining too much of the movie because it happens within the first, I think, 20 minutes of the movie. Right. Sandra Bullock gets away from the space station that they're trying to fix, and she is literally flipping upside down, just drifting into space. And that to me would be so terrifying. Like, I'm a complete baby. Like, I will not go on roller coasters that go upside down. So I can't imagine spinning upside down, just float. There's absolutely nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
There's no, like, flailing your arms. You're not going to stop yourself. So I just thought that part was absolutely terrifying.
Yeah. When I saw the trailers, that's like there was like one day a couple months ago they released 3 clips from the movie, and then on YouTube someone cut them all together in this big extended trailer. If you look on ObsessiveViewer.com, I actually used it as one of my Trailer Tuesdays. Shameless plug, but I was at work just on my phone and I started watching it. And I got a minute into it before I had to stop it. I was like, "This is too terrifying." And it's that part where she is adrift, and I'm like, "This is almost too terrifying for me." And I'm sitting in a room at work watching it on a small screen. I can't imagine how I'm going to feel when I watch it on the big screen, which by the time this episode's out, I'm going to have watched it, but I will have watched it. But it's, I can't wait to see it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And also, just one quick point before we move on. For me, as a movie fan, it always brings a little bit more joy when a really good movie, I loved it, and it's getting awesome reviews, is also killing at the box office.
Yes.
I find that so satisfying that finally a movie that is loved by critics and people all over the world is also doing really well at the box office, because you don't always see that.
Yeah, I read when after opening weekend, I read that it made $55 million in its opening weekend, which is the biggest debut in history, biggest October debut in history.
Which crushed one of your favorites, didn't it?
Yeah, probably. Are you talking about Paranormal Activity?
Paranormal.
Yeah, which is fine because Alfonso Cuarón is clearly, I don't know if I pronounced that right, is clearly the more talented filmmaker.
Definitely.
I just want to add that Pat and I are sharing a microphone, so all the throwing praise on this movie and excitement for it that you guys have agreed with, I've just been nodding along the whole time.
Nice.
Awesome. I'm excited too.
Yeah. Mike, how about you? What have you watched, or what do you want to bring up?
I just recently got to see a movie I've been looking forward to for a while, and I think I might have mentioned being excited about it. It was the writing and directorial debut of Joseph Gordon-Levitt,
Nice.
Don John.
Nice. How was that?
It was an impressive debut. And,
Okay.
and I really liked the things that I could tell he spent time on and the things for which he cared most. As a whole, the movie left me wanting.
Okay.
I really liked that it was a commentary on, addiction and porn addiction. I thought that there would be more about how women see romantic comedies in almost a similar way to the way men see porn. I thought there would be more about that, but there wasn't. It was really more about relationships than anyone else, and kind of your job to care about another person equally in a relationship. It took some twists and some turns that I didn't expect. In the end, I felt satisfied by the movie. It just kind of surprised me. There's some really great, funny scenes. Tony Danza is fantastic. And in particular, there are a couple scenes, but the first time they do it where John, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, is driving around town in his car, and he's angry, driving through the traffic, and he's like yelling at everybody. Cut to perfect juxtaposition of him going into church on Sunday. And it was just it was a well put together scene, and they kind of do that joke a couple times, and it lands, it hits every time. So I appreciate what he was trying to do. In the end, it left me wanting. I would give it a mild recommend. What are your I would say bargain buy. What's like a 7 on your scale?
Probably bargain buy or
I'd bargain buy it.
or buy digitally.
Okay. I would buy it digitally.
Okay. Do you think he has room to grow as a filmmaker? Or do you think he should just stick with acting, or how do you feel about him as a director and writer?
As a director, he's fantastic. I'd like to see him direct somebody else's work.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Although I feel like anything he would do would be super message heavy. So I think if he hits the right message and he hits the right notes, it'll be good. I think he could get away from the Guido thing, the overdoing the I guess New England accent.
Sure.
Is a little much. I don't know. I'd like to see more.
Okay.
Cool.
He didn't fail. He certainly didn't fail.
Okay. That's cool.
Good.
Nice. Tiny, how about you? What have you been up to lately?
I'm gonna keep it with the Shocktober theme a little bit here.
Nice.
I recently purchased and then watched the 35th anniversary edition of the Halloween Blu-ray.
Nice.
I almost talked about that.
Really?
I'm sorry to cut in. I'm sorry
No,
to
it's
Kanye,
fine.
but
I know it's like pretty much your
almost
favorite
mentioned
movie.
that.
So.
Yeah, it is awesome. Go ahead, though.
The reason I wanted to talk about it is because it was almost like a first viewing for me, because the last time I saw that movie, I think I was 12 or 13, and
Wow.
I just didn't really connect with it at that age for some reason. It didn't. I remembered so little of it, and so this was kind of like a first viewing for me. And I did a little mini review of it on the blog, and it has carved out a little space in the dark part of my heart that's reserved for Halloween and horror movies. It is a masterful piece of filmmaking. More than anything, that's what I noticed about it. I've said I'm not a huge fan of slashers, but so the part where he's going around killing people wasn't necessarily for me. But I think all of the build up to that was just absolutely incredible. The Mike, you've mentioned how John Carpenter builds the tension so well, and he absolutely does. It's masterful, and I love the camera.
The
work
entire
in it.
second act of the movie is a tease.
Yeah,
And I love
exactly. Yeah, like just the opening scene with the first person point of view camera angle, where it's the 6-year-old Michael Myers stalking through the house and subsequently killing his older sister. That I would have thought that using that kind of perspective would be very gimmicky, or it would seem like a video game, but it worked so well. It was so enthralling. That was one of the highlights. And then even after that, in later when Michael is he's just walking around the town in broad daylight and just stalking these people. It's so eerie the way the camera follows him, and like the camera follows him into a car, and then you watch him follow the kid in the car. It's like you're participating. It was really, really great filmmaking.
Yeah,
It's so good. It was duplicated several times and had never been done before that. In fact, they invented, I don't know if they invented, but they perfected the Panaglide camera to do those kinds of things, especially that first shot. So they invented the camera they used to do that for that movie.
That's awesome.
And then filmed it, and then it kind of hit big, and everybody borrowed it. So truly, that was the first of its kind to do that kind of thing in a movie.
Okay.
Nice.
It definitely shows. So I loved the filmmaking aspect of it, and I think it is a great movie. It totally deserves all the prestige that it gets.
Nice. I just recently bought that myself. I haven't watched it yet, but I think when I do, I'm probably going to write like a big review of it. So check that out on the blog at obsessiveviewer.com, the Shocktober tab.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I actually just watched it a day or two ago with the commentary.
Oh,
the
nice.
35th anniversary with
Cool.
commentary.
With John Carpenter and Jamie Lee Curtis?
It is with John Carpenter and Jamie Lee Curtis on the DVD version, which they also copied for the original Blu-ray release.
Mm-hmm.
It's the two of them and Donald Pleasance, but it's 3 separate recordings, just layered,
okay.
and it's not it lacks a flow.
Mm-hmm.
So it's cool to hear the conversational bits between them. It's not very insightful, and in fact, really, you get a lot of narration by Jamie Lee Curtis. Like, what I mean by that is her telling John Carpenter what's about to happen or what's going on in the movie, which is kind of funny. And then it's a lot of her like being scared of the movie. So it was more cute than anything.
Okay.
But it was cool. There's also, sorry to go long here. There's also a documentary included on the DVD, a featurette of when Jamie Lee Curtis was in Indy for the Horror Hound weekend, which I unfortunately unwisely did not attend.
Right.
And I fell in love with Jamie Lee Curtis watching that documentary. It was awesome.
Was that this most recent Horror Hound convention? Or am I thinking
no,
of
it was in
something else?
November.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
I was going to say, that was... Okay. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, well, I think that about wraps it up. Do you guys have anything else you want to add?
Nope, not really.
Pat, have you seen the Halloween Blu-ray?
No, I have not.
All right,
There you go.
well... that about does it for us. Thanks for listening. Thanks for downloading, streaming, whatever, what have you. To the Obsessive Viewer Podcast's Ode to Zombies. As always, you can find me, Matt, at Obsessive Viewer on Twitter. Mike is at I am Mike White. Tiny is at Obsessive Tiny. And our guest today, Pat, is at Patty_Kuhn, Kuhn. You can also find back episodes of the podcast at ovpodcast.com, and check out the blog at obsessiveviewer.com, where all month we're doing Shocktober related reviews and everything, and we love hearing from you guys. So check it out and comment and all that. You can also like us on Facebook at The Obsessive Viewer, and you can shoot us an email at ovpodcast@gmail.com. Any kind of feedback or any subject suggestions, anything you want us to hear or want to join into the conversation, just shoot us an email and let us know. That about does it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Pat, for being here.
Yes, and Pat, thank you very much for joining us. It's been great to have you on.
Thanks, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you, listeners.
Thank you, guys. Okay. All right.
All right.
Was I supposed to say okay right there? No. Everybody else did it.
It's just our like little high five routine before. It doesn't even mean anything. It's like the NSYNC playing hacky sack backstage before we start a show.
Well, I'm glad that I'm not cool enough to be included in a little inside joke.